hello everyone, and welcome to World of Darkness News, during which I am a little La Sombra today for some reason. I don't know why. It is probably because I was testing new setup recently, and I sometimes glitch out. I really hope that's not going to happen too often. And hello everyone on the 31st episode of World of Darkness News on December 10th, which is also my birthday. So thank you so much everyone in the chat for your happy birthdays. It's such a pleasure to spend this birthday with you, and in general, to end this year with a birthday that is actually not too bad. Especially as there was actually news in Sweden this very morning that it's been over 1 month right now in Stockholm with not a single ray of sunshine. We didn't have a sun for all of this time. Do I still glitch out with that? Just a little bit, I guess. It's fine, just La Sombra stuff. It happens. Anyway, I'm extremely glad to spend this extremely dark December with you guys every single week on the World of Darkness News. And we actually have not only that prepared when it comes to the Twitch streaming. Right after my little introduction, we're going to have an interview with Hugh from Black Chantry Productions regarding Vampire the Eternal Struggle. And later on, I'm going to talk about something special that we prepared for the very end of this year, and it's going to be awesome, I promise, because I'm so happy about this. We're going to start with the interview. I'm going to connect to Hugh right now. He's waiting for us in the call, and yeah, let's see if he's still there. And let's talk the Eternal Struggle. Hello there, Hugh.
Hello, Outstar.
I am showing you on screen right now, and you are there looking beautiful as ever. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well as well. I'm very happy to be celebrating my 130th birthday today. So,
Oh, congratulations. It is my lead designer's birthday, Ben's. I don't know how old he is. I don't think he's 130. He sometimes looks it after a long day working.
I mean, we sometimes do look our age, but then we use a lot of blush of life to try to look younger. So you know how it goes. So Hugh,
yeah.
you're for the first time a guest on the World of Darkness News show. Although people from the Vampire the Eternal Struggle community may know you for longer, but could you please introduce yourself to our community and tell us what is your role in Eternal Struggle production?
Of course, thank you. So my name is Hugh Angseesing. I'm based in the United Kingdom, and I'm the chief executive of Black Chantry Productions. We produce Vampire the Eternal Struggle for Paradox, so we are a licensed partner.
That's great. And Vampire the Eternal Struggle, of course, for those of people who joined the family just this year or recently through LA by Night, it might seem like something new going on, but it's been going on for a long, long time. What is the history of this product?
Yeah, it's a really ancient product. So it's a 26-year-old game. So originally designed by Richard Garfield. So he's the guy who designed Magic the Gathering, among many other games. It was released back in 1994, so it's just over 26 years old now. In its original release, it was called Jihad. So in 1995, it got a renaming to Vampire the Eternal Struggle, which makes a lot more sense in kind of keeping with all the brand. And it's been going on ever since then. It's been, I think, printed by 3 different publishers. So Wizard of the Coast had it for 2 or 3 years, and then White Wolf took it back in 2000, and it went out of print in 2010, and we've been printing it now for about 3 years again.
And I'm not sure if, of course, you know about all of this this extreme spike of popularity that Vampire the Eternal Struggle had back in the days, in which there was just so many people that got into Vampire the Masquerade through the Eternal Struggle. And I'm just mentioning it because on one of the past episodes of World of Darkness News, we had one of the developers of Heritage board game who said that he was one of the people that basically asked his father for a vampire units for Warhammer, and Father came back from the shop with Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, and from his experience, a lot of people just accidentally stumbled upon this game in the stores or received it from someone back in the days, which made this huge popularity of the game back in the days. Do you have some stories about how Vampire: The Eternal Struggle ingrained itself in the mass mindsets of the players?
Yeah, I think it was just the kind of the right game at the right time in the right place. So you think back into the mid '90s, which is a really long time ago, but you had all this stuff going on in culture. You had like vampire films were really popular. Tim Burton was starting to make all of his kind of dark gothic style of films as well. The role play game had been really successful, and then you started to get these mass market kind of board and card games coming out. So like Magic was first, but then Vampire: The Eternal Struggle came out, and it was a bit different compared to the kind of the other games back then. It was a social game, right? So it was designed for 4 or 5 players and sometimes more. I remember playing a 13-player game, which took a very long time, but you're playing the social game, and you could talk and you could chat and you could take on the persona of the characters you're playing. So I think it was just very, very different back then. It was an emotive connecting game for a lot of people, and particularly in kind of subcultures. So rockers, goths, punks, people who could see themselves depicted on a lot of the kind of the characters in the game. It's just one of those games I think really stuck around, and that early group of players who've been playing for like 26 years, they're the core of our players still now, and they've gone on and they've had children, they've got married, they've introduced other people to the game. So you've got second generation players and third generation players. So it's a game that's kind of created its own kind of life cycle out of that. I've never seen anything else quite like it, so it's quite impressive.
It is, and for people who haven't had a chance to play this game, because I've seen that there's a lot of people who play Vampire: The Eternal Struggle who do not roleplay Vampire the Masquerade, and there's a lot of people who come on board Vampire the Masquerade currently that are still to be introduced to Eternal Struggle. And to introduce them to it briefly, what is the game about?
Yeah, so you're taking the role of an ancient vampire, Methuselah, in the World of Darkness, and your job is to try and eliminate the other players at the table. So you're sitting in a circle, so you're trying to kill the player to your left, and the player to your right is trying to kill you. And the way you do that is by bringing out minions, so smaller, younger vampires who are your pawns, and getting them to do actions to try and affect the Methuselahs around you. And that lets you take on the role of different clans in the game, different bloodlines, use the kind of disciplines from the Vampire Masquerade as well as real world locations. So the cards depict the Tower of London or the Palace of Versailles. So you can places you've been on holiday, you can go, oh, I've been there, and it is also in the game as well. So it is just representing the real world with a little bit of kind of gothic horror.
Just like World of Darkness is supposed to do. Yeah. So that's great. So what is the difference in between the original VTS that people grow to like and play back in the days and the 5th edition of Vampire: The Eternal Struggle?
So that's the really good thing. It is the same game. So exactly the same game, 100% compatible. But what we've done is we have made it look a little bit prettier. So we've kind of changed the kind of the graphics slightly to really just blend in with the kind of the current branding of the World of Darkness. We've updated the disciplines for the clans where they've moved on. So Malkavians have had demontation as a full discipline power in the past. Now they have dominate again. We've also changed the kind of clan symbols to recognize the kind of modern branding as we go through. But all of that kind of same clan lore is there throughout. So, your original clans are still in your 5th edition Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. So in this starter set, we've got 5 decks in there. So 1 for Malkavian, 1 for Nosferatu, 1 for Toreador, 1 for Tremere, 1 for Ventrue. And they all specialize in doing slightly different things, and partly that's based on their disciplines, but partly that's based on their traits. in Vampire the Masquerade as well. So you've got your haughty patrician Ventru who like to try and control your other kind of clans. You've got your Malkavian who see things that perhaps the others do not see, and your Nosferatu who like trading in secrets, right? So you've got all of that in there, and these cards 100% compatible. So all we've done is clean up the templates, produce new cards to represent new characters within the game. So we've used the source material produced by other partners of Paradox to get other characters into the game. We've also got some of the artwork from Vampire the Masquerade in the game as well. So some of the characters have been using that artwork. So for us, it's about continuing that storytelling.
That's great.
And connecting back to the source material.
So technically speaking, if someone was to dig out their very old Vampire the Eternal Struggle games and combine them with the V5 decks, they would be fully compatible and they could play together, right?
Correct. Yes. So there are something like 3,500 cards available to use in total. So that's a lot of different cards. And over the 26 years the game's been going, maybe 10 or 15 cards have been banned, if you like, from tournament play. So very, very few cards. A few more cards have had their texts or their functionality change, but the majority of the cards are almost functioning the same. So it's about keeping it simple, straightforward, concise. I think the biggest changes are from 1994. People didn't know how to write cards or board games quite as well. There've been so many board games and card games since then. So when you look at rules or you look at how to write something, so people in different languages and different dialects can understand how a card works, you can go, oh, okay, this is how to template it in a way that makes sense in different languages.
I see. And of course, one of the most important aspects of designing a game such as this one and the 5th edition of it is to balance each deck to work with the others. So
exactly, yeah.
What was your approach to balancing different clans for players to enjoy it together at the table?
Exactly. So all of the clans have their own disciplines. And disciplines are deliberately imbalanced, right? That they have different powers in the game because that's part of the fun. And people want to do different things. So that's quite a challenge. Try to make in a starter set like this, try to take 5 decks and try and make them balanced. So we have about 130 playtesters scattered across the world, and we gave them these 5 decks. We also gave them a deck for Banu Hakim at the same time, and we got them to playtest them against each other. Tell us what worked, what didn't work. And really just kind of iron it out over 3 different playtest rounds. So probably 9 months worth of playtesting. It takes quite a long time. You need to see repeated plays, and people have different styles. So you want more and more evidence to go, okay, this works or this doesn't work. And then, what happens if you play the decks in this order, or if you swap it round, or because it's a 4 or 5 player game, ideally, what happens if you use just 4 of the decks, and which deck, if you take out, does it work better or not with? So we've done a lot of that, and we're really very lucky to have like a dedicated fan base who are willing to spend that time helping us playtest. There's 5 of us in the company, so we could do that ourselves. It's a perfect number, but we would be we'd have a tunnel vision, or we'd be blinkered. Like we would see things we would think about. We wouldn't necessarily see other things. So having that large community base to help us playtest has been absolutely essential. And the way we kind of make that work as well, we deliberately have them spread across the world. So we have playtesters in Brazil and playtesters in Spain and United States and the UK, and let's try to get like a wide variety of groups and input. Some of these playtesters have been helping out for 15 years or so as well. So some of them are really experienced, some of them are less experienced, and you need, again, both types of people, because some people will just think about I like to build these kinds of decks.
Yes.
This is what I want to build. I really like Malkavian, so I'm going to look mainly at the Malkavian deck. But you need people to look at the Nosferatu deck and the Toreador deck and the Tremere and the Ventru, and try and understand what works for different players. And if you're a new player who's looking at these cards for the first time, what's going to excite you, and what you're going to find complicated, and what you're going to find straightforward. You need to have a lot of kind of balance there.
Of course, and you need other players to attempt to break your game, because ultimately they always come up with the best ideas to break it. So I have a lot of questions from chat, and chat, don't worry, I watch you constantly as you send the questions in here, but usually I ask this question as one of the last ones, but there's a lot of questions coming up about some very singular mechanics or very concrete little things about VTS. So I feel like this could be combined with the question about the playtesting and your fandom. What are the places in which you contact your community the most, where people who are interested in the Eternal Struggle or want to ask you questions directly, where can they go to?
Yeah, so there are a few different places. So the first thing is there's an email address, so contact@blackchantry.com. We do get a few questions there. There are multiple Facebook groups. The main one that has kind of the largest presence and most questions on is a Facebook group called Vampire the Elder Kindred Network. So that's the kind of community webpage where people talk about organizing events or have rules questions. There's also kind of a web page which has forums on it, www.vken.net, which is a similar kind of thing. So people can ask questions. You can look at old tournament winning decks. You can look at kind of deck clinics. You can go, I don't understand how this card works. There are kind of a few fan-based applications as well to, how do I want to build a deck? So you can use these fan-based applications to kind of build those. So there's one called Codex of the Damned, another one called Amaranth, which is available as an app on a phone. So they all help people build decks, have a look at how card decks work. The Facebook groups are really quite helpful, as you get instant responses from people in the community. So there's 2,000 people in most of those kind of communities on a regular basis. So you get quite a lot of interaction. And I do like emails as well. Depends how complicated the question is. If it's really complicated, I have to pass it to Vincent, who's our rules director, because I'm like, I've forgotten how that works. But he always remembers, thankfully.
That's great. So when it comes, there's questions about how a rod Shrek works, or whether the crows can attack you in the game. All of these questions people can direct to your email, right?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, but there are other questions from the chat which were very interesting, and one which also I feel like is universally interesting, but also difficult for developers that work with us and make board games, especially in card games, is this year in general. This year that caused a lot of the either delays or situations in which it was just difficult to create tournaments or plan for the future of games that are so competitive as VTS can be in a good environment. So how did you adapt to what 2020 brought us as Black Chantry Productions, and what are your plans to go with what we've all learned this year to the future?
Yeah, so I guess adaptation first of all. So March and April were really weird months. So things really slowed down. We stopped shipping as much product and kind of cards around the world. Some tournaments got cancelled in some countries. So like I think Italy and Spain probably cancelled events first, and it took a little bit longer to kind of carry on through the rest of Europe and North America, and then kind of South America was a bit later. We still thought we were going to be able to play some of our bigger events. So we annually go to Origins in Columbus, Ohio, each year for a week of events. And that got moved around as an event. And we thought that might still happen. And eventually it became obvious that it wasn't going to happen. And similarly with our big kind of European events, we were going to go to Robocon this year as our big headline European events. That's in Helsinki. And, it's obviously very disappointing. And there's also a lot of personal loss attached to kind of those events being cancelled as well for many people, and just a lot of things going on. What what happened with the community, I guess some people were still able to play.
Mm-hmm.
So in smaller groups, because it's a 4 or 5 player game, if you're a small community, or perhaps you're able to play in a place with masks or outside, so those events were still happening. A lot of players also moved online, so there are a number of ways to play the game online. So there's an old piece of architecture called Lackey, and there've been tournaments on that during the year. So we sponsored some of those events, and we had a few tournaments of over 100 players on Lackey. And these, because you're still playing on 4 or 5 player tables, and it takes some organization. They're generally over a few days to make that work. But you can also play over a tabletop simulator as well. So we've had a lot of that, and a lot of the communities have organized their own kind of mini leagues. So there's like a little German league, or where the organizer for Germany, Rudolph, got all his players together, and he would meet up with them. I think it was perhaps over 8 weeks. So they'd play some events, try to get as many people in his community connected as possible to each other.
Mm-hmm.
We've had similar things in kind of like Chile and Mexico and Brazil, and down the road from me in the UK, my friend Paul's been organizing some things as well. So there's been quite a lot of that. As we look to next year, I think we just need to appreciate that things will get better. At least things look like they're getting better. So I guess I'm currently in the only Western country that's vaccinated anybody so far.
Yes.
We've probably vaccinated, like, I don't know, a few thousand people so far, and we expect to have 2.5 million vaccinations by the end of the year. And that sounds like a positive step. In terms of what that means for kind of conventions and tournaments next year, I don't know yet. I would not expect anything really big to take place in the first half of the year. But we, as an event, we are about big events, right? So we want, a lot of players. You're spending a lot of time together, and one of the beauties of the game is that kind of interaction. So like the European Championships, you're going to like Helsinki, and you might meet a load of Finnish people there, but there'll be some Swedes traveling, some Norwegians, some Italians, somebody from Serbia. You've got all these different people coming together and sharing their kind of life and world experience with each other. That's kind of part of the joy of the game. So at the moment, really looking forward to that coming back, but at the same time conscious that online play is going to be here to stay, and we're looking at how do we make that more stable, how do we make that more enjoyable. It's not quite the same.
Of
So
course.
playing into a video or a microphone, it's got a lot of the similarities, but playing at a table where you can see someone's face as you rip off their vampire's arms, or you burn down their police station or something like that, right? You want to see their anguish and their fear as you take charge, but you also want to see their joy as something really happy happens on the table, right? That is really key. So I think we just see where it goes. The community's been really responding quite well. There's been a lot of interaction still. People are still excited by new cards turning up and arriving. I guess board gamers and gamers in general, like, a lot of us are in our 30s and 40s, and some people are in their 50s and older. So we're not low risk,
Mm-hmm.
but we're also not high risk.
Yes.
So, we have lost people over the years, and some of that's due to ill health. More of that's due to kind of mental health, and I think that's the thing that is probably more concerning during something like this. Is like, how do you keep people connected? So you're not able to see somebody anymore. How do you check that they're okay? How do you give somebody that interaction that they might be missing, right? For a lot of people. And like I think this is very true of all of the World of Darkness games, and true of a lot of kind of Paradox computer games as well, right? They're really immersive. They're world building games, and people can get really connected to them. And you want to have people maintain that connection through something like this. So that's why we've really encouraged that kind of online play through this year, which is not something I've done a lot of before. I've played a few times before this year. I've played a lot more this year, but it's not quite the same. So looking forward to 2021 being better.
We all hope for that, and I can absolutely relate to what you're talking about, especially as I feel like if not for the digital role-playing experiences this year, especially, I feel like I would be in a very much more negative zone myself right now because we cannot really meet so easily in real life, and it just doesn't feel as a good thing to do in very often of the cases. So meeting online and being able to play through Discord or through other means with people just means a lot. So people were asking where is the best place to get Eternal Struggle physically currently, and I assume that the best place would be blackchantry.com, but you can let me know if that's the best place.
Yeah. So so because we're like five guys, I think 4 cats and some fish as a company, we don't have a lot of warehouse space. So we generally sell through distributors, and this is probably unusual for a modern games company, but our drive is to get it into retailers. So we have a lot of retailers that stock our game through our distributors. So we distribute in Europe through a number of large distributors. So we have a big Spanish distributor who stocks many in Spain for us. We have a French distributor. We also use like Brave New World in Germany, and Asmodee and ADC Blackfire as well as a number of others. There is one, there are a few large kind of retailers you can buy from in Europe. For instance, there's a online retailer called Vites.store, and Fantasy Spell It in Finland as well have a very good online web store, as well as a number of other retailers. In the US, we have a distributor and a retailer called KGS Cards. So he's able to supply retailers as well as supply direct if needed. You can also buy print on demand through drive-through cards, which is very helpful. So it means you can order some stuff that's hard to get hold of, or perhaps a retailer doesn't want to buy because it's just one deck. We do have a list of distributors on our website at blackchantry.com, so you can see where the distributors are, so you can contact them and find your retailers. I would highly encourage you, where you can, to support your local retailers, encourage them to buy it. Really, I grew up playing in a retail store, so I started playing this game back in 1994 when I was 12. Would you believe it? I don't obviously look old enough to have been 12 back in 1994. And I traded my Magic the Gathering for my first vampire cards from this store. It was a good trade. I didn't have anything useful back then, but playing in that store, and I've played in many stores in the UK since. There's like a store in Manchester called Fan by 3, which I've played in. I used to play one called Ealing, one in Ealing that's gone away, and one in London that's gone away, one in Reading that's gone away. I mean, you get this idea, right? A lot of these stores disappear. So if you don't use them, they go away. And I really like kind of game stores because it's a way to find new products, to see things. Like same with like independent bookstores. I like a bookstore because you can go in, you can look at the book, you can touch it.
Yes, maybe I was very lucky, but I have never been to a game store that sells physical games that doesn't have an extremely passionate person selling it. Like every time you go in a store, they will tell you everything about every game you need to know about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the UK is very lucky in some ways, right? So because Games Workshop, and I live 4 kilometers away from Games Workshop. I live 4 kilometers away from Games Workshop, and they've got 100 odd stores in the UK, and that just sells their stuff. But because they're so big in the UK, it means there's lots of independent game stores as well. That wasn't always the case. So when they were up and coming, independent game stores seemed to disappear, but there seems to be like a second generation. So now, like I live in Nottingham, there are 3 independent game stores in Nottingham, of a city of 230,000 people or something like that. So that's pretty cool, right? So I can go in, I can buy games, I can look at if I like them, and then there's you can get mass market board games now in your supermarkets, right? So big big production releases from Asmodee you can find in Tesco's in the UK, which is something that would not have been true 5 years ago. You could find Monopoly or Cluedo, but you could not find a Carcassonne or a Double, but you can now. I find that's really impressive. Like something like Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, I don't expect Tesco's to stock or to ever want to stock.
One
But the
day.
fact, well, possibly, but the fact you can get board games there just means you've got bigger presence and people are more open to having a look at different games and being excited by things that are available. So I think we've done very well with that. But particularly, I don't know what it is like across the rest of the world at the moment, but like the UK, we had a long lockdown from March to like June, and then we had another lockdown just now of another month, and then we've got a tiering system which is a bit mixed. But small retailers and I guess the other place we play a lot in the UK would be pubs. I love my pubs, but they're basically closed where I'm at the moment. They're struggling, so it's just good if you've got those extra dollars or euro or pound that you can put back into those kind of small retailers. I just really appreciate it. Like I don't need the money,
Yeah.
right? I spend the money on chocolate and Lego, as we were talking about earlier. So
It is a
yeah,
pretty good way to spend money, though. Like, I agree, but absolutely, if you can support your local retailers, that's what we always tell people regarding board games, card games, and comic books, of course. That's just, especially in this year and time, it's extremely important. So, as we've already, I think, convinced a lot of our audience that didn't maybe hear that much about Eternal Struggle before to finally get it for holidays, I would like to ask you, what is the future for the Eternal Struggle? Do you plan to release more clan decks? So, what are your next plans?
yes. So fundamentally, I think each clan in the World of Darkness needs like a core kind of deck, uh, just to make it easy. So we will have decks next year for Bani Hakim, Ministry, Bruyar, and Gangrel. And again, those decks will be kind of stylized around those clans, right? So the Bruyar will be perhaps a bit more aggressive. The Ministry perhaps might be a bit seductive. The Banu Hakim might be a little bit stealthy, a little bit kind of, murder in the back alley, but not quite so
Murdery.
much as it was in the past. And the Gangrel will be a bit, well, just a bit bestial, really, a bit animalistic.
I'm waiting
So,
for my ministry very, very much.
well, we are always looking for artists, Outstar, and I understand you do a little bit of art on the side, so you never know. Um, so that's one thing. So they're currently in the second round of playtesting. We're also looking at kind of the other source material that's available. So we really want to draw as much as we can from the new source material and kind of the other games that are being set in the World of Darkness as well. So we have a kind of Fall of London set. So that, obviously being British, I think that's a great idea. So, the idea of what happens to Mithras and his coterie and what's going on with that kind of Inquisition element with the Fall of London, getting that in there. We also want to have a look at getting the kind of the Justicars back into the game. So we have all these different versions of the Justicars in the past in Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. So we want to get those new ones out and see how things have changed with kind of the beckoning and kind of what new characters turn up there as well. And it's really just about get those core decks out, so each of the clans has like a solid base to build from, and then kind of bundle support packs so you can mix and match, change those decks, customize them how you want, make sure there's enough variety. So I think there's some good examples here. Like we've got 3,500 cards available in the game. If you look at a clan like the Ventru, they have like 100 or so vampires in the game. So you actually have quite a lot of variety for them historically available. And we don't want to print most of the old kind of vampires or crypt. We want to try and print kind of the modern World of Darkness elements. So with the older kind of vampires, we're going to put them up on drive-through, so you can get them as a print on demand to give you, again, that kind of flexibility. But for us, it will be about printing new vampires to add to those clans, to allow players to have more options. Do you want to play Ventru that's about politics or bleed or combat? Do you want to try and pretend they're 15th century Templar knights or something, right? So you can build different decks around what you want. Exactly.
That's great. I really like the variety that I feel like is going to only grow with the future plans for Vampire the Eternal Struggle. And I do urge everyone to go to blackchantry.com, because there's not only a very useful blog, development blog there with a lot of information of behind the scenes on the production, but also the list of cards and all of the more detailed information that our audience may seek. And Hugh, I gotta say, honestly, from this interview, you seem to be like a very relatable person that I would love to sit down and talk board games and card games with. So the question I'm sure that a lot of our audience are wondering is whether we can find you somewhere out there in the internet, in the social media. Where can we follow you?
Yes, so I am on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. I really like Facebook is my thing, but I got into Instagram this year. Very dangerous though. So I thought, I'll take some pictures of, so I live near the river, so I'll take some pictures of the birds and the wildlife I've seen walking by the river. So what I ended up doing was following a brewery and then going, oh, that looks like a nice beer. I'll follow this other brewery and this other brewery. So I'm now following about 150 different breweries on Instagram. That's very dangerous, because it's like, would you like to buy this new, I'm very into my imperial stouts, strong, dark beers with like chocolate and vanilla in it. And like, I would like to buy all of you, but I can't buy all of you. This isn't going to work.
It is pretty dangerous. It is very dangerous, I admit. But it's also very relatable.
Well, it's what I mean, right? So I had a few outdoor drinking sessions, particularly during the summer, around like a barbecue or a fire pit, because that we're allowed to do. So you've got this big, large beer, and you're pouring it out and sharing it between 3 or 4 people. That's a safe way to drink a beer like that. But by yourself, 500 milliliters of 11% beer or something like that, that's not a good idea. That's
not a great
idea.
Beer
you have and go to sleep.
Unless you again have a lot of people around you and a very long session of Vampire the Masquerade going on. So last question to you, Hugh. Something that I do ask very often our guests: which clan do you identify yourself with?
I thought you might ask this, as having watched previous sessions, it did seem like a thing. So I apologize for those of you who aren't currently playing Cyberpunk 2077, because you're watching this instead. I would be playing it if I had a machine that was a bit faster, so maybe after Christmas. But I've always been told I look like a poor man's kind of Keanu Reeves. I don't know if you're getting that vibe.
There is something about it. Yeah, I gotta say, you could as well be. You know how in video games you have LODs? So in the distance, something is just very similar to the thing that is close to you, but it has less polygons. You could be that in Cyberpunk for Keanu Reeves. Like LOD-free.
Pixel version of Keanu Reeves. So I would go for the Toreador. I'm even wearing like a slightly velvet jacket, fake velvet jacket, obviously, but a velvet jacket.
I am very happy that you said that. I personally did. I feel like Toreador would be my second choice. So thank you so much, Hugh, for joining us today. And I do recommend everyone to go to blackchantry.com and to follow Hugh on social media. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much for having me. Cheers out.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
So that was Hugh. Oh my god, I really enjoyed this interview, guys. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Because I am glitching out again. I'm going to move this screen in here and it should be way better. Okay, so I really enjoyed it. It was really fun because I personally, as much as I haven't played much Eternal Struggle, I know people who are absolutely crazy about it. And I need to absolutely get my own butt into play way more of it as soon as the pandemic situation ends. Or actually play it through Lucky, because I've learned about Lucky today during this interview. I haven't used it before, and that's apparently the digital way to play it. So we should check it out. And now, guys, I actually have some pretty cool announcement for you. But before we get to the announcement, I want to remind you about something that happened last week, or last weekend actually. And that is the one shot that we had on this channel of LA by Night meets Winter's Thief. If you missed that, it actually is saved in our VODs on Twitch, and it's going to be uploaded to YouTube very soon, so you're going to be able to see it there as well. But I really urge you to check it out, because not only it brings back some of the characters you remember from LA by Night, the undisputed Baron of the Valley is coming back with Erika Ishii playing Annabelle, and they do make a canonical appearance in this one-shot, but also it combines it with the whole theme of Winter's Thief and the setting of the Winter's Thief comic, which is very much praised by our community. And it has a wonderful storyteller, Blake Howard, really did an amazing job, and I feel like chat was very anonymous about it because it was just great. And it had Patrick Rothfuss as one of the players, and Tini Howard as well, who was just playing a wonderful character. I really recommend you guys to check it out. It's a pleasure to watch one-shots like this. It was really fun. And I'm going to upload it to YouTube very soon. So now we want to talk about Family Holiday, and that is something that I was cooking for the past 2 weeks, I assume. And it is something that I've prepared for all of us, but also partially for myself, I gotta admit, because of this whole situation in the world out there. I am one of the many people out there who is not coming back home for holidays. I'm not coming back to my family. And usually holiday time in Poland, prevalently it's Christmas time. It's something that we celebrate with our families together, and it's very celebratory and great. But this year, we're not going to have this. Like, I'm not going to have this myself. So I was like, damn, I gotta do something to light up this time and make it a little bit more bearable for us all. And that's how the idea of Family Holiday started and came up. And basically what Family Holiday is going to be, it's going to be a marathon on Twitch on Saturday 19th and Sunday 20th, which is going to invite a lot of the people from the family out there to join us on the channel in multiple one-shots, card games that we're going to play, and various other activities. And I'm going to give you a very quick glimpse on what we are going to do and who's going to participate from people we've confirmed already. And I believe we've confirmed, so let me just, double check, 8 one-shots that we're going to have. 8 Vampire the Masquerade V5 one-shots. A lot of them, the storytellers told me that they are very much eager to use Vampire the Masquerade Companion rules, which are going to come out on Wednesday. But there's going to be one particular one-shot which is going to be fully dedicated to Companion, and in that particular one-shot I am going to be a player. So when it comes to the people role-playing and joining us, there's going to be a Lore by Night, who you probably know from a wonderful podcast he's doing, who is going to role-play V5 in Victorian Age. That's going to be one of the one-shots. Atlanta by Night with the wonderful storyteller Ellie Collins. The crew is going to be here as well. Vancouver by Night with Steve as a storyteller is going to be here too. The brand new roleplay, upcoming roleplay by Hadi von Schland called Blood on the Grand Strand is also going to have a one-shot. Stitch of Fate from Mathas Games, one of my absolute favorites this year, really. I'm so happy that they're joining. They're going to be here too with their one-shot. Jared Logan with their Vampires of Pittsburgh with Ashley Birch, Abubakar Salim, Ross Bryant, and I believe Josephine McAdam as well. They're going to be here too. And Denver by Night with Melee as the storyteller are going to be there too. And of course, there's going to be companion-related one-shot in which Brian Holland from Australia, our wonderful community ambassador, is going to be the storyteller. And the players are going to be Josephine McAdam. There's going to be Critical Bart, Omega Jones, joining us, and I'm going to be the third player. And we're going to play Companion Clans. So I'm super happy about it. And that's going to happen next weekend. To add to that, we're going to have Vampire the Masquerade Masquerade Heritage in digital tabletop version, which is going to be played with the developers. Vampire the Masquerade Rivals in the same way. And one special thing I'm adding there, not sure if you guys caught one of the streams which I've done in the past with Troy from CK Free Team. From Crusader Kings, we did stream Princess of Darkness together. He brought me on board to the CK Free stream to stream with him, and this time I'm bringing him in because this guy, this wonderful, wonderful guy, has never played Bloodlines before. So I'm going to make him play Bloodlines, and I'm going to be a voice in his head who's going to lead him through that world. And it's going to be the very first Bloodlines 1 experience that Troy ever had. So it's going to be pretty funny, and we're going to celebrate all of the things Vampire the Masquerade related in that 2 days of time with tons of role players. I'm going to publish the full schedule with the hours a little bit closer to the event, but you can expect all day and night the streams happening here, and later on being archived so you can rewatch them if you gotta go to sleep. So that's going to happen next week. I'm super, super duper happy that that this is going to happen. People are saying, please help keep Astra away from Cyberpunk until she posts La Sombra video. I'm sorry. I'm actually going to play Cyberpunk today. La Sombra video has to wait a bit, but it's going to come. And I promise you that it has to come very soon because I will owe you 3 more clan videos starting from next week, as on Wednesday 16th, the Companion releases. And we are extremely proud of what we've done, all the work that we've done with the Companion, with how fast we were able to do it, and with the content that is inside. I really hope you're going to enjoy it, and please, next week, download your free Companion from our website, worldofdarkness.com. You only need the Paradox account, and enjoy Tzimisce, Salubri, and Ravnos being brought back to Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. And yeah, roleplay the hell out of them. Let me know how you enjoy them. I will be listening. And next week, we are going to see ourselves on Thursday after Companion releases, and we're going to talk about it more in depth. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us today. That was a fun episode. I really enjoyed it. I feel like the jolly atmosphere of upcoming holidays is already, being shared in here somehow. And even though I'm glitching like a La Sombra, it's still really fun. Thank you so much, guys. I'm not keeping you for longer. See you again, and don't get lost in the night.